coming back once again. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. Getting into the holiday season, it's right about now. So just firing back. Wanted to get you guys up to speed on the latest and greatest. And I guess in the news over the last week or two was the Kyle Rittenhouse case. That was interesting. Did you catch any of that on the news?
I mean, I don't know how you didn't.
I was gonna say it's everywhere.
Yeah, but no, it was just, I mean, it's white kid obtains an AR-15, which no state in this union allows a 17-year-old kid to buy. He has his mom drive him across state borders, which what the hell is up with this mom, to enter the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, where he would then guard property, and ended up shooting two people and shooting the arm off someone else. And it's like everything about the situation is absolutely illogical. Like nothing makes sense. And the thing that bothered me most about the whole was that it wasn't even the trial. Because, like, as a Black person in this country, you kind of expect that, like, if a white person's getting in trouble for shooting people, like involved with anything having to do with Black folks, they're gonna get off scot full, But like the way the judge went about things, like, did you hear the joke the judge made about like the Asian food?
No, I didn't hear about this.
Okay, the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, they had ordered like Chinese, I guess. He made some joke about the Asian food on the way, and everyone was like,
Yeah. Okay.
like, what was that for?
Yeah.
And then there was the whole thing where he let Kyle Rittenhouse draw his like 7 jurors or whatever by random selection. And then like Kyle Rittenhouse was waiting behind the judge to find out his fate. And it's like, okay, this boy, he showed up with an AR-15 during a protest and showed up with the police and then hung out with the Proud Boys and made the white power sign. And it's just like everything about this situation is what Black folks expect in the trial of a white man who's involved with shooting people involved with Black causes.
Yeah, there was a lot to unpack because for me, again, I didn't see most of the case. I do know the backstory of it. To your point, I mean, and again, just the way I think is very technical and that kind of thing. But when it came down to it, I kept looking at, oh, well, this happened and that happened. He shot this person, and this happened, and he went back here and ran down the street. And I'm looking at all this stuff, and I was just like, I kept coming back to the one question. It's like, if you have a carry license in one state, how are you able to go to another state? And it's not like somebody's breaking into your house. It's not somebody's like attacking you. You are actively having a firearm, walking down the street with it. Because again, if at the end of the day, if you were in your own, like if you're in like a cousin's brewery or something like that, and you're behind the door and you're guarding the door, maybe I could see that, but you're actively walking around on the street, not in your own state, with a fire. I was like, what? That's the part that I kept coming back to. I was like, why are you in a different state shooting people? I couldn't get past that, I guess,
Like, don't even go to the shooting part. Just like, why are you in a different state armed?
Right.
Like, it'd be one thing if he wanted to be a counter protester, he showed up with like signs and stuff, but he showed up in another state at a protest armed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one at that Black Lives Matter protest was armed except for the police, Proud Boys, and him.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff that went down with the trial that had me like, he talked about a lot of things that kind of had me like, he sounds sensible. Yeah, he did nothing sensible when it came to the actual situation. And just makes me think like, boy, this dude was coached to say all the right things because a whole lot of stuff he did don't make no sense whatsoever. If I went to another state to protest, right, the first thing I would do is go to the event organizers. If I was going to a counter protest, I would go to the event organizers, or someone who's got a tent going. But this kid showed up at a BLM protest and went right for the white dudes with guns. Okay. So that's who he was affiliating with. And let's be honest, Joe, no kid that exists today exists in a vacuum of information. Every child knows exactly what they're getting into when they get into it because they have more access to information on this supercomputer we call a smartphone that is always with them, always accessible, always this, always that. And I'll bet if we interview some friends of Kyle Rittenhouse for any reason, they'll be like, yeah, he talked a lot about like shooting things. He talked about like joining the Proud Boys or some militia organization. You know what I'm saying? Like also remember, he pulled that trigger and shot those people. This is a guy who knew what that weapon was and what it could do. When he says he chose it because it looked cool, he knew how to load it. He knew how to handle it. He knew how to carry it.
Mhm.
And he knew how to pull the trigger after removing the safety. Everything about this guy's behavior is a system of choices that usually only happens with someone who's trying to make some trouble. And here he is saying, like, I was just there to defend property. You don't sound
No,
like someone trying to make sense in this situation.
yeah, and I do agree because at the end of the day, like I said, I own a firearm. I'm a licensed firearm carrier. I have a concealed carry. That's my last resort. If somebody's trying to murder one of my family members and I'm in the house and they're actively breaking through the door, yes, I'll pull my firearm and use it at that point. I'm not going to go look for or initiate trouble though. That's the part again that kind of I keep coming back to. In fact, I know police officers, military, regular citizens like myself, friends, whatever. Some of us all have firearms, and none of us are actively going to look for trouble. We're taking our firearms and saying, okay, if let's just say a bunch of wolves or something they're coming into the door, okay, yeah, let's open fire. At that point, we're not going to go actively looking for a situation to use a fire. Your firearm should be your last choice for what you need to defend yourself with, not the first thing you're waving it around and all this stuff. So that's the problem I have with the Rittenhouse thing. It's like certain people with guns have a brain, I guess. Other people and they use that brain and say, okay, if I absolutely need to use this, I'll use it. Other people have fire. Oh, it looks cool and this, that, and the other. Do you know what I think when I look at my firearms? I hope I never ever have to use this. And I cringe at the thought of even holding it sometimes. Like I don't even like to hold my firearms. I only got it because my wife started having issues. She felt threatened by some people and stuff like that in our own neighborhood. So that's why we started getting firearms. But none of us are actively looking for that kind of trouble. We don't look at firearms and say, "Oh, this is cool." And, it looks. I'm like, no, I don't really even want to carry this thing. To be honest with you, I just know people are crazy. That's why I do it. So it's a crazy world out there. Yeah.
It is. And you have to defend yourself however you can. But like everything about this Kyle Rittenhouse situation was fraught with decisions that made no sense from a logical perspective. It just felt like from the defense's position, I mean not the defense, from the prosecutor's position, like they went about this every way wrong possible in order to ensure that this boy was going to get off. Because there's absolutely nothing about the system of decisions this kid made that makes sense in any given context. And the fact that this court system allowed him to show up, do some fake cry, and then get off for killing two people and shooting the arm off another. Like the fact that our justice system looked at that set of circumstances, like, that's fine. It's like, you can't tell me that that person was black. When he showed up with an AR-15 by the cops, they'd have gave him a bottle of water. They'd have been like, what are you doing with that gun? You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
because what's he doing there? They know this is a protest. They know this is supposed to be a nonviolent protest. Who is this civilian with a gun?
Hmm.
So yeah, like the fact these Proud Boys be showing up with AR-15s and like the cops don't immediately like shut them down tells you everything you need to know about that. Because there's nothing about the Proud Boys that says we're a peaceful set of this situation. Like in the history of the Proud Boys, there has never been a situation where they showed up and everyone's like, good, we're gonna get to the bottom of the situation. You know? Like
Well, yeah.
when the Proud Boys show up, they know somebody about to get hurt because that's what they do. They fight. They don't fix. So
Well,
this kid going to them and the cops just being like, this is okay. It's like, it tells you everything you need to know about the goings on of the powerful in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of just interesting things that happen, I guess, in the justice system, a lot of which is definitely irrational or weird. But at the end of the day, like I said, it just goes back to me for me, it's just common sense. It's like if you told me somebody was actively breaking into my mom's place of business or my dad's place of business, or they're threatening their lives or something like that, okay, yes, I could see going inside of the building, locking the door, calling the police if you have time, and then saying, hey, there's some people outside of my door trying to actively break in. Please come help. Please come get them. That's step number one, if you can do that. Step number two is then if people are said people are coming in or trying to set fire to the building that your parents own or your relative owns, then I can see, okay, hey guys, you need to step back. I'm armed, something like that. But if you're just like roaming around the streets, yeah, I'm just going to protect random people's property. No, no, that's stupid. There needs to be an active reason to be brandishing the firearm and to be actively using it on people. Because number one, you got to think through this, right? Bullets can travel up to a mile in certain situations. So if you're actively shooting someone or shooting at someone, you don't know where these bullets are going. And I think in AR-15, they're shooting the higher caliber rounds. So those rounds are going to be traveling like a good distance. You know what I mean? Like you never, like he could have been shooting, shot a bullet, it went a half a mile and shot some old lady in the head or something like that. You never know. So that's what I'm saying. Like when you're brandishing a firearm and you're shooting, you got to be damn sure what you're getting into. You can't just be like, oh, let me just start shooting. Now, if you're in the middle of a wilderness somewhere where nobody can get hurt, yeah, maybe you could do that. But like, no, if you're actively around like people and around a city type environment, you got to have hollow points, number one, because you may or may not know this, but hollow points, embed into the drywall or like a wood or something like that, and it stops. But if you have like an AR round or some of those like higher power rounds, they're just going to keep moving. They're not going to stop right at like a door or window. They're going to keep moving past the door, past the window, past a couple of doors or past a couple of walls, and then hit something and then stop.
But that's the thing about a hollow point. If you fire that at a human being, it will blow them to everything. When a hollow point connects with a body, a whole lot of stuff happens, and none of that is about keeping that body in one piece.
That's why I'm always coming back to whether it's firearms, self-defense, or even talking, even arguing with somebody. It's like, don't go from like 0 to 10 with a firearm. It's like, dude, just use that as a last resort. My martial arts teacher once said that. He said the best weapon you have is your voice. Talk stuff out. He's like, he's seen situations where, again, the people are like huffing, puffing, fighting, and all of a sudden somebody gets seriously injured or breaks their necks, they're paralyzed. Then guess what? you got much bigger problems than somebody mouthing off.
Yes.
But you know, I guess if you were fortunate enough to be in his situation, I guess you don't have to worry about any of that.
Man, for
Apparently,
real. Like, that boy, like everything about that just makes you go, really?
yeah.
Like, really
And
though?
I
Like,
knew it was
this
going to
is
go
it?
in that direction. I knew it was going to go in that direction. I started looking at it, and I was just like, okay, okay. Now I will say this: when I saw the part of the video where he was down on the ground and looks like they were tussling with him, I said, okay, if somebody at that point, I could see a little bit to defend yourself, but that's with the context and the background and the thought that, hey, I'm in my parent, like, for example, I'm in my parents' place of business trying to defend their place of business. I get dragged out of that place of business and start getting stomped on. Then I'm going to go up and start shooting, something like that. That I could see. But then, but if you're just saying like, oh, I'm walking around and saying, yeah, black power or white power or something like that, it's like, dude, chill out. That's stupid. Stop,
Yes.
All
Oh
right.
my
That's it for this week.
God. Oh.